Basically, a protection order was filed and agreed to last night by all parties. They're just waiting for the judge to sign off on it. And I can tell you right now that depositions are coming. It is a fact, an absolute fact. Is going to get subpoenaed, and she is going to be deposed, and she is up first. They want her first. They have heard.
I'm also more honored that because, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful, that we're able to have this much anticipation, and so many people want to go see it and are talking about it. Like, that's what I'm grateful for.
And you had a key part in bringing it to the big screen. How did this all come to be?
Well, in 2019.
So let's see how Candace breaks this down for us today. I don't think you guys want to miss this one.
All right, guys, Taylor Swift. She is getting deposed. It is happening. It is happening. Everybody stay calm, okay? So yesterday, as I mentioned, yesterday evening, again at 11:02 p.m., I don't know why Blake Lively's team likes to file these things late in the day, knowing that I'm monitoring things and I can't stay up that late. But they filed a protective order. And I at first looked at it and I thought that they had done this by themselves, but actually it looks like it was agreed to by both parties to protect some of the things that may come up in discovery and through all of these subpoenas. Now, my lawyer told me that this is actually pretty standard. My poor lawyer, who I call all the time asking questions about this case, and he tells me that I'm not a party to the case at all, but he's got to give me legal advice anyways. This is a pretty standard thing that happens in commercial cases, and it's really just a measure that's used to protect business interests. So I'm giving you guys a really bad analogy here, but let's say I'm in court and I'm fighting with Chase Bank about something, and all of this is obviously public, and we move together for the judge to seal certain aspects because we don't need those things to become public fodder. So maybe it's like my account statements. Like, why does the public need to know if I'm waking up every day and buying Starbucks coffee? Whatever it is, it's just irrelevant to the public. And so that's what they're doing. They're trying to say, okay, there might be some things that come out that are not relevant to the public, but the language here in this protection order I found to be very, very interesting. And at first it made me think instantly of Taylor Swift. So we're going to pull this up. I'm calling this like the Taylor Swift clause. In the protection order, it says the person producing any given discovery material may designate it as confidential or attorney's eyes only. Only such portion of such material, the public disclosure of which is either restricted by law or will cause harm to the business, commercial, financial, or personal interests of the producing person and or a third party, including high-profile individuals to whom a duty of confidentiality is owed. I don't know why they are I don't know why we owe these high-profile people confidentiality. And that consists of a previously non-disclosed financial information, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you get it. So I'm thinking this means like we're not going to be able to read these Taylor Swift text messages. We're not going to be able to read, or they're going to like seal her deposition. Turns out I am completely wrong because I have it on very good authority that Taylor Swift is going to get subpoenaed and she is going to be deposed, and she is up first. They want her first. They have heard the public pleas, and essentially we're going to get it. We are finally going to get what we want. And this is a very, very, very big deal, and I'll tell you why. First and foremost, with my non-legal expertise, as I have said from the very beginning, smartest possible move for Justin Baldoni's team to make. I've said depose her. I wasn't sure they were going to do it because Brian Friedman was asked about it by Harvey Levin on TMZ, and he said, well, we don't know. We'll see which way this case goes. And I'm going, what do you mean you don't know? That would be like the very first thing I would do. I would depose Taylor Swift against Blake Lively because first and foremost, no matter how you feel about Taylor Swift, you have to recognize and respect the fact that she is a machine, okay? She is an absolute machine. She will do everything to protect her image. In other words, Blake and Ryan will wind up fighting a real dragon, okay? A real dragon that has an army of teenagers that are behind her. And it is my professional opinion that she was very much involved. She was involved in this circumstance, and that currently her team is lying to the public. I kept saying they are clearly lying to the public and trying to signal to Justin Baldoni's team, like, look, we have nothing to do with this. We're not friends with her anymore. We don't even like her. We don't even know her. We can't believe she said this. They were running articles. She feels used. She feels abused. They claimed to TMZ in one article that she only met Justin once, and it was briefly, and essentially she was startled because the meeting was supposed to be over at Blake's apartment, and then she arrived and Justin Baldoni was there, and then they painted this narrative like Taylor was just really nice, and because she thought this is Blake's boss and she was being really kind, had a brief discussion and never spoke to him again. And we just know objectively that that is not true, okay? We know objectively that is not true because both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, despite this contentious fight, have agreed on the fact that Taylor Swift was involved in this film, okay? They just have agreed on that without knowing that this fight was coming, when everything was all good in the hood and Blake Lively was using her name. So I'm gonna jog your memory just so you understand how many points she's involved in, how many times she could be subject to having to answer questions about maybe giving text messages pertaining to, first and foremost, the casting of young Lily Bloom, otherwise known as the actress Isabella Ferrer. Remember, she said this on the red carpet premiere.
Did I hear that Taylor may have had some influence in getting
Yes, she did. Yeah, I know. I don't even know if I'm meant to be saying it, but I'm saying it. Yeah, she was a helpful part of the process of the audition, which I found out later after I got it, and that rocked my world. Yeah. I have no words.
And Justin Baldoni confirmed this in an interview. He said that this happened, but listen to his language, okay? Because it sounds like he's maybe seen Taylor Swift more than at that one time at the apartment in which she was, quote unquote, startled and never spoke to him again, according to the PR teams. Take a listen.
She told me Taylor Swift helped her get the role, like signed off on her audition.
I had brought in, I was casting, and I had actually brought in and showed her casting tape to Blake and Taylor, and they were both like, "Yes, her." And that's a true story. But she just blew me away. She just blew me away in the audition.
Okay, so he showed the casting tape. Did all that happen in a couple of minutes? Or are you supposed to believe that happened in a couple of minutes at the apartment when she apparently just said, "Hi, bye, nice to meet you, boss"? He then said, "Oh, let me show you the casting tapes for Lily Bloom." More going on there, okay? They're lying to the public. And again, this is because Tree is trying to protect her client. The right thing to do, by the way. That is the job of a PR person, which is to try to signal to the public that she wants nothing to do with it so that she doesn't have to get pulled into this. Now, we should also be reminded that Taylor Swift also allegedly got the lead composer on the film, Brian Tyler, fired, and the guy under him, allegedly for personal reasons. We were told by this anonymous Reddit post, which came out way before any of this broke in the public, and no one believed the person at the time. And yet everything this person has said has now fact-checked true. So they were alleging that Taylor Swift came in there and was like, if you want to use my song, My Tears Ricochet, which they did, again, showing that she was very involved in this film, then you can't have these guys as the composers. And we saw that whereas Brian Taylor is friends with Justin Baldoni, and he's worked with him in the past, and that he had written a score for this movie, for whatever reason, his music was not used. So where there's smoke, there is fire. And they have not explicitly denied that, despite the fact that all of the podcasters and TikTokers are speaking about that. There has not been this denial from Taylor Swift's camp. Then there's this, okay? We went over how odd the It Ends With Us credits were. Sexually harassed, and now we're just mocking him everywhere, mocking Justin Baldoni everywhere. But she thanks Taylor Swift, so bingo, obviously she was involved. Now you might say, oh, well, it's because her song was used. Well, we found out from that Reddit post that it was more than that. They had a sit down with Bradley Cooper, which is why he's mentioned in the It Ends With Us credits, because they had this like celebrity screening of Blake Lively's cut, but then the person said it was like her cut was problematic, so they brought in Taylor Swift's videographer or Taylor Swift's music video makers to help with the edit. Well, then I noticed that in the It Ends With Us credits, there is a person named Stefania Dulowski, and I had not scooped this before. So I was looking up everybody on this list like a psycho, and I was like, who's Stefania Dulowski? It turns out that she is an editor, she's a director, and she's a photographer who previously worked with Taylor Swift. Not just Taylor Swift, but also Blake Lively. This is from Stefania Dulowski's website. She has a list of every music video she's worked on, and this is Taylor Swift's song, I Bet You Think About Me. You see it lists Shane Reed and also Blake Lively. This is Blake Lively in her directorial debut. This was back in November of 2021. So she directed Taylor Swift's video, and the person that did the edits was this Stefania, and they clearly brought on Stefania, Taylor Swift's team, to come in and get involved in this movie. Okay, so you don't get to now go, oh, I had nothing, I just one little run-in here with Justin Baldoni. I have nothing else to do with anything, okay? Then you have the fact that Blake Lively herself admitted during an August 2024 panel, they're doing all of these promos. They're on the promotional tour, and they did this stop, I guess, really to appeal to influencers and speak about the movie. And she just flat out spells out the fact that Taylor Swift was involved every step of the way with this film. Take a listen.
Was it exciting? Did you have to make some calls? There were a lot of calls made for a lot of songs in this movie. Honestly, like this movie, I think that like when you see it, it feels like a big, beautiful summer movie, but like we didn't have any budget. So there were a lot of favors and a lot of begging and your knees for Taylor? I mean, honestly, she was with me on this experience the whole time, all throughout it. So like she really lived this with me. Yeah, she was, she's a person who shows up for you, and I'm so grateful to have that love and that support. But yeah, there were other people too that I had to call and beg, and people that said no. But I don't know what that means. So if somebody has a dictionary, I would love to find the definition of that. It's so confusing to me.
It's really interesting when you consider really the thrust of this lawsuit, and you can only imagine the things that she's allowed to say. If Justin had ever said that, if he was like, I don't take no for an answer, or can somebody show me what it looks like in a dictionary? I don't listen when I'm told no. They would have made a big stink about it, particularly in their filings. But all of that's believable, by the way. So she's just saying right there, Taylor Swift's been involved since the beginning, every step of the way, more than just the song that she gave us. It's believable because, as I pointed out, we have been so focused on that text message about the dragons and Khaleesi because it's wacky and it's weird and it's crazy and it's unstable. But what's also compelling is that the very first time that Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni speak via text message, when they first are introduced to each other, Ryan Reynolds immediately name drops Taylor Swift, okay? She's the only person they're blurring out in this lawsuit. So I'm gonna remind you of this. This is important. He is basically saying how great Blake is. And then he says, Justin Baldoni, some of the greatest creative decisions I've made are in fact Blake. The same goes for Taylor. The acting is a small piece of a pretty astounding patchwork quilt of creativity. So he name drops her right away. And I remind you, she was coming out of that relationship with Joe Alwyn, and she was spending a lot of time with them. At the beginning of her Eras tour, she was being pictured with them. It's what she likes to do when she gets out of relationships. She likes to girl squad, get photographed by paparazzi, and I would just imagine she needed something to play with. And it ends with us, ended up being what she decided to play with. Then, of course, the most obvious thing is that Ryan uses Taylor Swift's strategy of dropping Easter eggs all over social media, all over the Deadpool movie, all over the It Ends With Us credits, all over the Deadpool credits, to take all of these digs at Justin Baldoni, again, which makes all of us not believe that she was actually harassed, and rather they were moving to try to squeeze her and to eventually just have Blake replace Justin Baldoni as the director on the film, by playing this part of I'm a victim. This is, whether you want to admit it or not, this is Taylor Swift's MO. So she is screwed. She's up first on their people to depose, and we are going to be able to read that deposition, because there's nothing proprietary there. We don't need her accounts, and you can't say, well, I don't want to be deposed because I'm Taylor Swift, and there might be something in there that shows that I'm a liar. You can't do that. This is a PR crisis for Taylor Swift. And I'm going to tell you why that interests me, okay? It interests me because this moment is super interesting for the left and the right because, and I was having this call with Taylor Lorenz, formerly of the Washington Post, this morning, and she was asking me specifically about this lawsuit and why is it that it seems that it's bringing together the left and the right. And I sort of said to her, well, actually, at least for me, I have been on this Me Too thing for a very long time because I recognized that it was becoming a business strategy. But I think that something fractured for people that were on the left with the Amber Heard lawsuit, and they didn't forget that. They didn't forget what Amber Heard said to them and then what they watched throughout the hearings, and her kind of just completely forgetting the fact that she had abused Johnny. We got to read her messages, and we kind of up close got to see how the press can just completely take down a man. I'm not saying that everything that Johnny Depp did was great in this relationship. I mean, both of them were admitting to doing drugs on the stand, but it definitely, they just chose the woman in this, and so many details were left out. And I think it was a good moment. I think that fracturing was good because it allowed us to all go, let's pause and actually think and consider that maybe we're not being told the truth, and that maybe sometimes women do lie. And I have known for years, okay? Trust me when I tell you, I know enough people in Hollywood that Taylor Swift is considered a very shrewd businesswoman. She's gotten away with a lot of things because truly, and don't me, Swifties, but it's because of this empire of teenage girls. It's because I have to say, don't me, Swifties, when I share some facts with you. And it's funny because I said to you the timing of this book, I wrote an entire chapter on Taylor Swift's brand of feminism. And I was kind of going back to what was that moment when I was no longer on the Taylor Swift train. And I was like, I can enjoy her music. I can enjoy the artist. And I still, like I said in my Instagram stories today, I'm going to bop to London Boy forever. Like, it's totally fine. I can genuinely appreciate, it brings me back nostalgia, some of the albums. I'm the same age as her. But in 2019, I was like, I'm good off of Taylor Swift because her and I are the same age and we're both involved in business. And when I saw her do that move against Scooter Braun, something in me broke. And so I wanted to kind of jog your memory about that really quickly before we get to Leslie Sloan PR's move, because I'm really interested to hear what Swifties have to say about this with new information and with time and with you guys getting older. I don't know why I'm assuming everybody's a teenager that is a Swiftie, but the point being is that you're kind of growing up and you're starting to see these strategies that can be used. When you revisit that situation and you learn more facts about it, if it at all disturbs you. So again, this book has not been published yet. I'm literally showing you the manuscript from my Microsoft Word document. You can buy the book, and I shouldn't be showing you this because why would I show you this? But I think it's important. So here we go. We can bring this up. I'm going to pull it up here on my laptop, gang. So I write in my book, before unpacking this incredible event, this is between her and Scooter Braun, it's important to at first note that Taylor Swift does not represent a rags to riches Hollywood story. In fact, if Taylor had never become famous, she would have had to settle with just being wealthy. Taylor Swift grew up on an idyllic Christmas tree farm in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Her father, Scott Swift, was a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch, and her mother was a marketing executive for a financial fund. It's important to note that both her parents had careers which would have rendered them financially savvy. They hired their daughter, a talent manager, at the age of 12, and Scott relocated to Merrill Lynch's Nashville office so that Taylor could pursue her career in music 2 years later. Suffice it to say that when record executive Scott Borchetta approached her family to sign their daughter in 2005, Taylor was well represented. So well represented, in fact, that her financially savvy father purchased a 3% stake in Borchetta's new company, Big Machine Records, under which Taylor Swift was signed. Naturally, there would have been a fleet of lawyers involved from both sides to close the deal. Of course, neither Scott Swift nor Scott Borchetta could have ever predicted Taylor's future success when they orchestrated that deal. They simply agreed to what they both thought was fair at that time. Borchetta took a chance on an unknown Taylor Swift, and that risk paid off. Until Taylor decided that it somehow wasn't fair 14 years later. Taylor decided that she would relitigate her business deal through the tactic which had always served her, manipulating the emotions of her fans who she could assume knew nothing about business. At the heart of the matter was a man named Scooter Braun who had recently just purchased Big Machine Records through his holding company. Through this perfectly legal business transaction, he had acquired the masters to the music catalog that Taylor Swift had created while under the label. For definition's sake, a master is effectively an original recording. Whoever therefore owns the master recording controls the destiny of the song. Should any person or company wish to use that song in a TV advert, a fee must be paid to the owner of the master. Okay. So then I get into, clearly Taylor Swift leaves Big Machine Records. She goes with Universal, and she posts this Tumblr post, this notorious Tumblr post When Scooter Braun acquires the company, what people didn't know that was going on in the background was that Taylor Swift, just in her mind, had this huge fight with Kanye West over the famous music video and Kim Kardashian, and she associated Scooter Braun with Kanye West as like his manager. And the reality is he actually wasn't his manager, because I did the due diligence on this book at the time that famous music video was posted. So she just didn't like him. She considered him to be Team Kanye and just didn't want him to buy the masters. But she never told the public that her dad owned a piece of the company. This drives me. I was like, this is the most wildly manipulative thing, to pretend that this isn't a normal business transaction. It's like he bought a house and something was built into the house. And he's like, okay, well, I'm buying this house. I'm buying it. It comes with the pool. And then Taylor Swift takes the Tumblr and she's like, I sat next to that pool and I wrote my songs. And it's like, girl, I don't care what your memories are here. I'm just buying a company. Like, I had nothing to do with the deal that you and your dad and Borchetta orchestrated. You're not the only person here under this record label. Anyways, getting just showing you the beginning of her Tumblr post that she posted, because I just remember, again, her and I are the same age. I was like, this is insane. She wrote, for years, I asked, pleaded for a chance to own my work. Instead, I was given an opportunity to sign back up to Big Machine Records and earn one album back at a time. One for every new one I turned in. I walked away because I knew once I signed that contract, Scott Borchetta would sell the label, thereby selling me and my future. I had to make the excruciating choice to leave behind my past, music that I wrote on my bedroom floor and videos that I dreamed up and paid for from the money that I earned playing in bars, then clubs, then arenas, then stadiums. You pleaded for a chance to own your work. Did you talk to your dad? Why do you tell that like your dad was literally, there were only 5 people that were a part of this business, and one of these people was her father. So this entire thing was just not plausible. And then she did, in a second maneuver, she posted this other Tumblr post, which is an objective lie. Guys, it's an objective lie, and again, relies on people not knowing business to call out this lie. It was about the AMAs. She wrote this. Guys, it's been announced recently that the American Music Awards will be honoring me with the Artist of the Decade Award at this year's ceremony. I've been planning to perform a medley of my hits through the decade on the show. Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun have now said that I'm not allowed to perform my old songs on television because they claim that would be re-recording my music before I'm allowed to next year. So this is just an objective lie. For those of you that don't understand what a master recording is, it has nothing to do with you live performing something. It's literally just what you already recorded and that we own, right? So like it's on the album, and you could say you can't play this exact album, like My Tears Ricochet in the It Ends With Us movie. They could have stopped that, right? The exact copy. It has to be an exact copy. That is what the master is. It has nothing to do with live recording. And again, people who don't know business or know the ins and outs of music would have accepted this. Which is why I just say at the bottom of this post, and the thing that bothered me about this was because I remember at the time, Scooter Braun's wife pleading publicly with her not to do this because their kids were getting death threats because her army of fans were just so angry. They were so angry because they believed that she was this perfect victim. And then the story ends, by the way. First, I said everything about this appeal to her fan base is despicable. Even the title, Don't Know What Else to Do, is absurd. You don't know what else to do? Working it out via normal contract negotiations would be a start. Second, don't try and emotionally manipulate your fan base to ruin people's lives. Words and phrases such as tyrannical, wrong, be a good little girl and shut up. The entire appeal was just like, help me, I don't know what to do, not like I'm a billionaire and I have access to the most powerful marketing team in the world. And yeah, it sucks, by the way. I can, to some extent, I would have agreed with her if she had done it on more honest terms and said, like, you know, when you're a young artist and you sign, and she just said, like, you know, obviously my dad had control, I didn't, and you're kind of would have done things differently, and you realize how hard you're working, and you feel like, you know, your celebrity has outgrown that contract. It's really frustrating. That would have been cool. Like, that would have been the cool adult thing to do rather than to pretend like you were a total victim. And the story ends, and it never got told. Her dad got paid $15 million, like when they got sold. And then a couple of months later, Scooter Braun resold it because it was just a normal business transaction. And it was more about her hatred of Kanye West at that time. And from that moment on in 2009, I just like just saw her for this, like kind of saw this maneuver of if you can control the press, if you can control the narrative, then you can take down people and you can get what you want. And the craziest part of the story is actually the fact that Taylor Swift now makes double the money. So then she recorded everything. Her fans were behind her, like, you re-record your stuff and we'll buy that. And she never told her fans, but I still own the percentage of what my dad orchestrated at the beginning.
Tell me what you think, guys. Do you agree with Candace?